Welcome to the second episode, the difficult follow-up to Ref, Are You Having a Laugh? Me, Wayne Riles, Martin Cassidy and Wayne Baker. We're doing a special today because we've had some breaking news this afternoon about the FA introducing points deductions to football opposed to fines to try and stop the abuse that referees get both physically and verbally. So, Martin, over to you, mate. You're the one that's been pushing this. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us how excited you are. I can see it in your little face there. And is this a start of big things?
I haven't been this excited since I heard about Virgil van Dijk going to Liverpool. I tell you, it's phenomenal, and it must be said, the FA. I really feel. Remember, I said in the first episode that I really see these signs.
Changes.
You're trying to get hold of it, haven't I? And here we are. Within 7 days of us having that pod.
Yeah, and Wayne said it wouldn't happen.
I know, mate. I know, and I've battered the FA for years. I've battered them. I've openly done it, and people have said I've got an agenda against it because I used to work there and all that stuff. And it wasn't. Now the two, what I believe, two big obstacles of development of referees have gone. These things are happening, and there's a guy there that all seems to gravitate around what he does. Is a guy called Andy Ambler, who I hope can come on this podcast at some point. But if we do get him on, it'd be a massive catch if we do. But he's fundamental in this. He's like the boss of the referees department. Covers lots of departments. Ex-chief exec of Millwall. Top lad. I believe he's pushing these things, and he's also on IFAB. So to see this come, even though I believe it's a bit watered down to what I wanted, would have liked it to see at the higher levels. I don't know what you two think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been nice, but listen, let's start somewhere. It's like, I just can't believe it's come through, and I think one of the reasons there might not be a higher echelons of football, well, because I think there's more political obstacles to get round over there.
Yeah.
And the FA is another national governing body, got more power over the level. What was it made? This step 7, wasn't it?
Step 7, yeah. So just to clarify for what's been brought in for people that are just hearing this, or you've seen it yesterday, you've not really read too much into it. So they're introducing a points deduction scheme to both men's and women's football. At men's football, it starts at step 7, and at women's football, it starts at what they call tier 3. So for women's football, it's Women's National League and Southern Premier Division and everything that falls below it. So it's missing out the top 2 tiers, which are the Women's Championship, the Women's Super League. And for the men's, it's coming in at step 7, which is kind of like the last step, or the bottom step, if you like, on the grassroots pyramid, which is stuff like your Northern Premier, your Southern Premier South, and all those that fall below. It doesn't cover the ones above it, which is National League South, National North, and National League, League 2, League 1, etc., etc. And as far as what we can see at the minute, it doesn't include junior football. And I think for me, my surprise of it was a bit like you, Martin, that I think it's great that it's coming in, but I think it could have been introduced to junior football as well. And I'm quite surprised that the threshold in it is a lot higher in the women's game compared to the men's, when we know as men are more aggressive than women. But I do feel, and I do smile when I say this, and I'm just trying to think of this conversation being had at a Premier League level to chief execs who have managers underneath them like Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, Conte when they were at Tottenham, and they'd be absolutely shitting themselves, wouldn't they? About this coming in. So I think it will work. I think it'll take time to bed in, but I do think it's something that we'll hopefully see that will eventually move up all the steps and to cover all football, and especially, which I know you're going to touch on in a minute, Wayne, especially junior football.
Yeah, I echo that completely, Wayne. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not in junior football. I'm a firm believer in nipping it in the bud. I think if we'd have, taught from an early level that you're going to be penalised if you abuse, diss a ref, violently attack a ref even, then as they grow older and enter leagues, if they get that lucky, then they'll have that behaviour ingrained in them. So I absolutely welcome the fact that it's happening at all. I do think it could be better. I do think hopefully it will be better in time and it will reach grassroots juniors, because I think that's a biggie. It needs to be in grassroots juniors.
Yeah, yeah. And I got the heads up before it got announced. There was an embargo on it till 12:30, and I was thinking, oh God, I want to get out there. And I felt like, on Christmas Day, you got told you're getting a car for Christmas, and then when you get it, it's a Robin Reliance and not a Mercedes. Do you know what I mean? That's how I
Yeah,
felt. I
yeah,
felt like it could have been so much better than it was, but it's still brilliant. It's
yeah.
still massive
It's a,
step forward.
to excuse the pun, it's a step.
In the right
Yeah,
direction. Yeah.
it is. It is a step in the right direction. I just think for me, obviously being a chairman and a coach and a referee in the junior game, I think junior football needs it as well. I
Hmm.
think this could be something that could be really, really brought in at a junior level, and it would enable, like you said, coaches like me to. I mean, I don't have it anyway. I mean, when my players kick off, and it's not very often because they're under 12s, but I know as they get older they'll get worse. And I jump in and I go at them and I say, just shut up, just shut up. It's done. We move on. And I think if we're then telling these kids, if you carry off like that with a ref and you keep doing it and you get carded for it or we get disciplined for it, like we've won a league this year on goal difference. So for me, that would have cost us a league title. I mean, it is sending out a right message and it is embedding it up here for later on in life when they get a bit older and they're able to do more damage both physically and verbally. As they get bigger and more mature.
Absolutely.
So I think having it in from a start for me in the junior football would have been a real bonus. But like I say, it's hard to criticise it. I hope this is kind of like a trial
Hmm.
of it, and then see where it progresses to from there.
See, as a parent, with young Max just about to start his ref course, I was really excited when I first heard this, thinking, "Oh, that's amazing! Just think how safe my son's going to feel knowing he's got this in his armory." To protect himself against people that might attack him. So, as a parent, I am that little bit disappointed that he's not going to have that just yet. But if he falls in love with reffing like we did, and if he progresses, he's got it there for him later on. So, I guess something to look forward to. You don't really want to do that to anybody, but it's still something that you understand. If I do progress and I do go up my levels and I do wind up in, step 7 and above, I've got something that can help me if I get abused, attacked, whatever.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely. And Martin, in terms of where you are, I take it you've been having your little chats today with people within the game. Has it been received well?
Yeah, yeah, it has. It
Any
has.
negativity?
No, no,
No.
and I've got a lot of people saying, bloody hell, Matt, these things you're suggesting over a period of years seem to be coming into fruition. You should be working at the FA. And I said, well, look, I used to work there, and I like to think that I'm having more impact, outside it than I am inside it. And I think that's one of the reasons why this might not have gone higher, because I know the political obstacles that are in the way there for people like Andy Ambler and Danny Meeson and the team around the referees department. Particular, obviously, a lot of this would be involving Fraser Williamson, who's the discipline side of things. I don't know what they call it now, but I always call it discipline departments. Which fair play to him. Leading on it like it appears to do, but there's still loads to go. Again, like the body cams, there's not a silver bullet here. But
Mm.
if you just step back, and even though I don't agree with the armbands like we talked about last time, and the purple shirt and the socks, but we start looking at a referee's toolbox now to what it was a few years back. There's a lot more tools in the box.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this is that if you're saying, look, if you don't behave or blah blah blah, you do realize you can get points deducted now. A referee, it's another tool you can use, and a lot of it is the tool that he'll report it. He doesn't recommend it, or she recommends points deductions. A happens, B could happen, and I think not with the sort of the way it's being phrased and worded again, which I understand why it's worded that way, is that it isn't like the first offence. If you assault a referee, that's it.
Yeah.
It's sort of ambiguous on that side of it. But nevertheless, I've battered the FA for ages, and rightly so. They deserve some of the stick that they've had in the past. But I've got to praise them, and I will praise them, and I want the whole refereeing community and football community to praise this. Yeah, it could be a bit more of a bigger stick, but it's a stick we've got now that we never ever would have had. I think it's great. I think it's really, really positive.
Just quickly jumping in on your, tools in the box. I don't know whether any of our watchers, listeners, whatever, that do reffing have got the iFab app. It's absolutely superb for those that don't have it. It's got the laws of the game. It's got some fantastic questions and answers, which give you weird scenarios that you might come across during the game and how to react to it. It's a really great little Q&A piece for anybody that doesn't have it. Get it? IFAB. It's well worth having.
Are you getting paid? Have you got your
No.
name and picture on this or what?
No, but as someone that uses it a lot, and I've got Max to read it as well. It's a real eye opener, and it's a really great tool for just those minutes when you sat, just wondering what a rule might be, or what if. You'll probably find it there on IFAB.
Yeah,
Can I just want to come back as well to the guidelines. Sorry, were you going to finish off on that then? Go on, finish off on that.
I was just going to say it's great for the pub ref. No, there's always every pub has a ref. You say, what are you talking about? And you can go, have a look at this, lads. Go and get me a pint in and have a read of that. You're wrong, lads. You're wrong.
It's true.
I just want to come back to when I want to pick up on what you said, Martin, about it's adding more little tools. And like I said, I downloaded this guidelines today because I wanted to be prepared. And I just wanted to have a read through it. But what it also does is, the punishment can be more severe and less severe based on how a club reacts. So what I mean by that, and I'll read you some of them out, like the mitigating factors, which obviously reduce the points deductions you get. And there's three big ones that are outlined at the top. And it puts the club has removed the individual who has committed the offence. The club has taken meaningful steps to address poor behavioural culture within the club. And the club has accepted full responsibility for the offences. So what that's saying is, it's not only to this player who might be a problem player or a problem manager, that if you do this and you do get us this points reduction for your team or for your club or whatever, right? There's a chance that so from my perspective as a chairman of a junior club, that I could say, I'm going to get rid of this manager. I'm going to get rid of you. So not only have you cost your team points, you've also cost yourself a position managing the team as something that you love to do, because the aggravating factors which they put in are talking about the severity of the offence. The club has not removed the individual who committed the offence, and the club has failed to take meaningful steps to address poor behaviour within the club. So that to me is saying, well, we're not going to accept it. So this is unacceptable that we're at this stage that your player, your coach, has either physically or verbally abused a referee. So you're going to get a 6-point deduction. If you don't get rid of him or you don't stop it, we're going to give you 12 points reduction. But if you do get rid of him because this guy's a problem, we know he's a problem, he's caused problems in the past, we'll reduce it to 3. That to me is out of everything that we're reading today, that to me is the biggest message to say that we are, as a collective, not accepting this any longer. And what we're doing is we're going to promote it and reduce fines or increase, not fines, points, or increase them based on your reaction and how you treat it. And I think it gives the clubs the power then to say, not only are we going to lose points, but you're going to lose doing what you love. And if you leave my club because I sack you because you've been abusive, either physically or verbally, to a referee, and it happens because I get it as a chairman where new coaches or players move across, why has he left you? Has he been a problem? Yeah, he has. This is why. Because he's been assaulting referees verbally or physically. And then they might say, well, I don't want you here either. And then before you know it, you're not going to be able to continue doing what you love. So I think that, from what I've read today, was the big one for me to say that actually the severity of what you're going to get as a club will be kind of determined a little bit about how you react to the incident, which I thought were really powerful.
No, I agree, and like I think even you've took on an interesting take there, because if he does go to another club, that club's going to go, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
we don't want you coming here. We're top of the league. We don't want. Whereas historically, the referee was out of order, or those referees are all crap or whatever. And I think that's another tool that can move with the person. And I think when the system all gets, it all settles down, and how they connect all the dots together for other teams through the whole game system or whatever way they do it, I think that's a really interesting point you made there, mate, of passing on the responsibility. And one of when I put all this paper together, and I know the FA were looking at other things, was this makes the team and the club take accountability for who they sign. I've said it for ages. Yeah. When they said about the captain, there was a big thing about the captain can only put the referees, which I sort of get. But other captains are a pain in the ass. They're absolutely worse than anybody. And one of the things I used to say to them during the game, if a captain is really being the problem, you say, listen. If I'm going to caution you, who else do I talk to manage you? And he or she starts realizing, oh my God, he's thinking about this. He's for real because you're not listening to me. I need someone else to manage you. And I think what happens is important. I've always said this to clubs. Clubs need to be aware of who they have as their captain and what position they're in. If you've got a real wily bloke or girl, obviously, who's a bit cute in how they think, and they're centre midfield, and they're in the referee's ear all the time. You sure about that, ref? Or well played, ref, great spot, great tackle, well done. Then when he or she goes, hey, ref, are you sure there? You know, how many's that? But if you got the opposite, and you've got someone that's going, hey, ref, every time, and you can't escape that person because they're in the centre mid, and you're always going to be within earshot. I always say, just think about your captain. If you're going to be adamant about a captain who's like that, have him as right back.
I'm thinking about mine already.
Do you know what I mean? If you have them in the middle of the park, and you can't escape them, and they're a pain in the ass, it's highly likely you're going to get nothing. And he or she's going to pick up loads of cheap bookings because the ref's just going to go, I'm had enough of you. You're doing my head in. So I always think this accountability of who you have in the positions they are and how they behave. Clubs just need to be a bit more switched on about that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
one of the things we're just moving this on a little bit about how you think differently is a lot of as you climb up to those levels you just mentioned, some of them have dugouts, don't they? Areas or whatever. And a lot of them is I go into clubs and I talk about it to advise them about it. If you've got a manager equally who's a pain, can't shut up, is aggressive, do you want him or her stood behind the lino in your dugout? Because a lot of them put the dugouts behind the lino. So the lino can't escape you. And if you're always in there, the same thing's going to happen with a lino. Put that together with a mouthy captain. You've got a recipe for disaster as a club, haven't you? So I go to clubs and when I know some of these managers and I say to them, oh, I know what you're like. You're a nightmare, lads. If I was you, I'd swap your dugouts. So the away dugouts behind the lino. Give yourself a break. And it's these little nuances in refereeing and football where when you're looking at the bigger picture like we do, it's our role to look at all the problems in it. You put these little pieces in places. Sometimes you can see why games go wrong for clubs and why they pick up loads of bookings and why they, do you know what I mean? And you get longer suspensions and big fines because they picked up 6-7 bookings. It's not that hard to put right. And now having this in place, making people more accountable for who they sign, how they behave, because you're going to lose points, it's a huge, huge plus.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, but I really didn't. I always wanted it, but I never thought of that.
Do you know what it could do as well? Like I said, by putting the accountability back on the clubs, it could weed out certain individuals from the game if nobody wants them.
Yeah.
You know, like say, I know this kid or whoever he moves on to because clubs talk, chairmans talk. I talk to other chairmans. I talk to other managers. You know, why are you moving on? You know, and they get by you getting older, and you get a rep. People know about you. People know about them bad players. People know who to avoid. They know who's going to be kicking off. As soon as you get that name, and it's not about covering a 60 quid fine. No, it's all right. He's a brilliant player. It don't matter. There's an absolute tosspot. He's a brilliant player. We'll just pay 60 quid fine. He can have his couple of games banned. He'll come back because he's that good. Well, now, nobody's going to be wanting them players. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you're going to be all that work that you put into a season, and, you know, I can only look at it from a grassroots level with the work that I put in my lads, that must intensify even more the higher up you go because obviously it becomes more and more serious, if you like, and it becomes money orientated in terms of when you get to the pro levels. Imagine putting all that work in, all that investment for somebody to just blow it over just the way he behaves and the way he carries off and, you know, verbally abusing a referee or even worse, shoving or pushing or, you know, whatever else. I just think it's really powerful that it's given the clubs a tool to say, do you know what, we ain't having it at our club because you carry on doing this, we're just going to keep losing points, and the more you do it, the more points we're going to lose. So I'm sorry, you need to go and find yourself another club. Good luck with that, and I think that could be really powerful.
Let's be fair, Martin, you must be absolutely thrilled. I know this has been a labour of love for you. You've got to have had some part in it. You've obviously brought these things to the attention. You've got to be over the moon, mate. You must feel vindicated.
No, I do if I'm honest. But you know, I wrote to them. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, conversations, and when the FA announced this new referee strategy that's still yet to see the light of day, but it's still going on. The first thing I said is, "What, you haven't got a sausage then? You've got a new one." So they laughed at that. They met me on Zoom, and they consulted me and put it all in paper. And one of them was this. This is a while back. One, and it follows it up. And then when it went quiet, it's got to go quiet for the FA. I feel for them sometimes because the journey they've got to make in football, council members and all this sort of stuff they've got to do. I do feel for some of these people who want to bring positive change quicker. But these little things are coming out. I hear there might be a steering committee, a bit of a clandestine thing going on. And then when I started up on the ante with the Klopp and the Pep, even though people don't think I did Pep, and all the other ones started saying deduct points. And what happens is, like a lot of these people do on Twitter, particularly Twitter, is that they start calling me bonkers. There's a big account that's attached to Liverpool who was coming at me saying, "You're deluded. It's never going to happen." Loads of people never going to. The FA want the money, because don't forget, we've said the FA make money. I always said, when you take points away from clubs instead of pounds, you'll start having an effect.
Can we?
Here we are. Here we are.
Can we name this Twitter account?
I don't want him, because he's like, I called him the professional moaner, didn't I? Because he just seems to, all he goes on about Liverpool.
I know what you mean. Actually, I think I've seen it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He always does moaning, and it's just laughable. And there's another account that says, 1 minute they're saying, "Oh, is that a penalty?" What they're saying is, let's all slag the ref off, because half of them's going to think it's not a penalty. Look what happened in the playoff just now, where loads of people saying that was never a penalty. You can't tackle like that.
Don't spoil that. I'm gonna bring you onto that in a bit. Because I want to finish up on obviously a little bit of football before we finish. Obviously, but I am really interested about that one, which is why I really want to pull your brain off that.
Let's tap this bit off then. But so to conclude this part of it, I believe, just like body cams, that this is one of the most progressive, forward-thinking things the FA's ever done for the protection of grassroots referees. Almost gives me goose pimples thinking that, we're this little charity with no money, our currency that we deal in is passion, and we're bringing about these changes. Whether the FA will never turn around and say, "Oh, well, actually, we sort of did listen to you," because then it just gives us way too much credibility. But I don't care. I've always said, I don't care who gets the credence and the credibility for doing these changes, as long as these changes happen. That's all I've ever wanted.
Do you think? Sorry, go on, mate.
Body cam should have happened years ago. Now they're here. Brilliant. Game changer. Points deduction should have happened years ago. Now they're here. Let's give the FA the credit and the pat on the back they deserve for bringing in these changes. So fair play to them.
100%.
So, we're talking about, and I'm not going to name the guests we've got lined up so far because they are really exciting. But one of them that you mentioned yourself earlier was Andy Ambler, about getting him on. I hope we do get him on, because I'd be really interested to know if there's a strategy behind the steps, and whether they're going to try to, slowly increase that, and why grassroots haven't been, not grassroots, junior football hasn't been included. Because for me, if I'd have got that news today that junior football were included in that, I'd have been absolutely blown away.
Me too.
What?
But does it say it's not included, or does it just not mention it?
Just not mention it. So
it might be included, and it'd be interesting to see what we get between now if we can get Andy on. And I think why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? Just why wouldn't it?
Surely junior football is the easiest one to integrate into. Surely it is.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems the FA's got is that a lot of problems come from the parents who are not classed as participation of the game. Yeah. All the regulations around being a participant, be it a ref, be it an assessor, be it a player, be it a coach, be it whatever, you become, when you sign up for a club, you're regulated through their affiliation as a participant.
For us, we do have some club rules, and I make a big thing for me to, when we get new teams in, especially younger teams with new parents that never done it, I make it a thing that I call a team meeting that I hold with all the parents to tell them how to act, how to behave, how they should be on the sideline and how they shouldn't be. And I'm not scared to bring that up. And I've done it when I've ref games, younger games. We had an under-7 game not so long back, and one of the parents was just too much. And I stopped the game and I said, "This has got to stop." She wasn't particularly abusing me, but she was giving a kid so much shit, basically, that he didn't know whether you were walking left or running right. And I said, I refer back to, you're down here to encourage and support and to cheer on. Absolutely not instruct. Absolutely not instruct. If you're instructing on one side and coaching instruction on the other side, especially a kid at that age, you're just going to totally confuse them. So in terms of how they behave in that regard, as well as, I won't have coming in and arguing with referees and what have you. I just won't have it as a club. And I think if there is an issue with referees, because you're going to get it, no referee's perfect, and I believe in any profession, and that doesn't matter whether you fly planes or you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a bus driver, whatever. There's good and bad. There's really good people that are really good at the job, and there's ones that are not so good at the job, and you're going to fall on that every part of your life, right? Some are going to be absolutely amazing at what they do. Some are going to be shit. Just because somebody's trained up to be a train driver or I don't know, firefighter, don't say they're going to be as good as the person next to him. So if there is a problem with that referee, leave it to the coach to sort that out. And I don't mean by going over and abusing a referee. There's times when I just said to refs, "Ref, can I just have a word? Just me and you, just so I can understand what's going off." And that's the right way to manage things, not parents screaming and shouting and going off. So I think as a club, it's important that you manage that. And, for us, and I think Wayne will back me on this, we're massive on this. I mean, we have must be only grassroots junior club that has parent liaison officers in each age group, to deal with this kind of stuff.
Great.
Because I truly believe in it. Come and support your kids. You're going to get frustrated. That's football, but you can't. Doesn't mean because you're frustrated and that it's the ref's fault. It's not always that case. It might be sometimes, but let the coach deal with it, not you. So
100%.
Are we wrapped up on that? Can I go to the next one?
Go on, then.
Yeah.
I'll let you.
Oh, is there anything you want to add, Martin? Because you look like you want to add something.
No. I'm just impressed the way how you talk about things like that. And both of you, the way you do so much with your football club is, we need more people like you too, and to get hold of it and do what you're doing to increase that positive environment. And I think this is another tool where you can say, the good people of the football can say, do you realise your behaviour could lose us the league? These kids are coming out here in the freezing cold, and your mouth could lose them their league or whatever. Yeah. And then I think as you go lower down in the football, they don't even have leagues, do they, at certain levels of football? But from so there's got to be sort of this threshold where, but the point is, the behaviour of the parents. You've got a tool now as a chairman to say, do you realise you could lose us points because your behaviour?
Yep. Do
you realise that? And I just think that sort of like like I said, another tool in the toolbox can work for us. So yeah, that's about it. Again, just fair play to the FA.
To the FA.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are our days. I really agree.
And Martin. So this brings me on, right? As I mean, that was a good half an hour. And hopefully we cleared it up a little bit for you. No doubt we're still going to get a little bit of abuse on social media, but I'm starting to get a bit of buzz off it. Before I go to the abuse part, I just want to touch on what we finished with last week, which I'm laughing because I've got a name wrote down here, and there were a tweet came through. Immediately as it happened, we were actually recording a podcast last week, and I'm like, we don't. It's going off while we're recording the pod. We've actually no idea. Give us a minute, But anyway, I'll come on to that in a minute. We had to talk about relegation. And the only one to get it right was you, Mr. Baker.
Indeed it was. Gloaty moment. Go me.
Fair play.
I honestly thought at 0-0 at half-time, these were my words, if it's 0-0 at half-times, Everton's arses are going to nip and they're going to blow it. And they didn't blow it. And I'm quite happy the way they stayed up. I love Merseyside derbies. They're good. But the amount of times Everton have not dropped on the final day of the season is mad. So I just want to get your thoughts on. I mean, Southampton's shocking. Leeds, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see them stay in division, they weren't good enough. But Leicester and Everton, two other big clubs as well. And were you shocked? And do you think it's the right three to go down?
I'm not shocked at all because I told you it was going to happen.
Well, yeah, Mr. Wayne there, he nailed it, didn't he? I think, like I said, innit, I want them to go down, Everton? No, because I think they deserve to be up. Would it be good for them to go down? Yeah. And of course, I was with Evertonians at the weekends. I've never seen anyone looking so nervous in my life watching the match for a long time. And of course, we're right by the ground, so we can hear them. We can hear the ground as well. We can hear the fans. I've never heard anything like it, I must admit. And so yeah, I think that's right for them to go down. I don't know if there was any records with Leicester has anyone won the league and gone down in
10
such a
years, is
short
it?
amount of time? Yeah, I think it was 9 years. Was it 9 or 10? But has anyone ever done that?
No. But
that
would
quickly?
do you know what? That's a really good question. Would you rather have been in the top flight like Everton have for all these years? I know they've won titles in that time. Or over the last 10 years, would you have rather gone down, popped up, won a Premier League, and gone back down? What would you rather do?
I know. It's interesting, isn't it? And I think when you look at the stadiums as well, and then you think, oh my God, Luton's coming up.
I know.
Oh, guys, have you seen that joke about can't wait for Luton next year for VAR, for the ref to go in someone's house and watch it on Sky?
we couldn't do VAR because the blinds were closed. And
that's it, yeah.
No, I think that's the beauty of football, isn't it? And I think look at the grounds that aren't going to be there. Leicester Stadium, whatever that's called now. Walker's Chris, no, it's called something else. Called King Power Stadium.
King Power, yeah, that's it. Power
Stadium. And then you got Ellen Rose, absolute legendary stadium. Southampton, right? St Mary's a new one, but still a hell of a setup down there at St Mary's, or if it's still called St Mary's. And then we have Luton coming up, which is like, where does that happen in the world?
I was happy for either of them. I really didn't care who came up. I was excited to get one of them to up, opposed to, and I'm really sorry if you're a Middlesbrough fan or a West Brom fan, just yo-yoing all the time. I'm looking forward to somebody different coming up. So
I agree.
I'm happy with that. But this leads me on, and do you know, honestly, I was absolutely pissing myself last week when I got off this pod, because I was putting it together and I was editing it and getting it all sorted out, and my phone kept beeping off. So I thought, I'll have a look. And there was some guy, Martin, coming proper at you about this Pep Guardiola incident, and saying, ask him what's happening. What is it? The way they were typing, you could see that they got the phone and they're just smashing it. Go and ask him.
No, I reckon he typed it with the head. I reckon he was headbutting the keyboard.
So, absolutely, because I'm like, give us a minute. We've only just recorded the pod. We don't even know it's gone off. So, I went and had a look at it, and do you know, you're going to tell me, you might tell me something different here, but I thought it was nothing. Maybe he shouldn't have done it, but I think you could see he wanted to do it, and he kind of like stopped himself, and it just became a little bit. And I just don't know what I feel of it. I don't know whether I feel it was a bad thing or a good thing. I can't see anything but the comedy side of it, based on all the abuse you were getting, and we weren't even watching it.
I know, and I think a lot of it is, if it wasn't Pep Guardiola and it hadn't got so big about Klopp, when I picked on Klopp, I don't think anyone would have mentioned it. But you get all these Liverpool fans, and remember, I'm one of them. And what about them? You two, Klopp up. You just laugh at them and think, how old are you, lads? How old are you? And then John with 6 followers has a come at me and says, I want you to answer me. You're scared of me, John with 6 followers. Listen, mate, come back when you're in double figures. And I think it's that sort of like, I won't be able to go out and answer people like this and say, well, when they come at you, you're this, you're corrupt, you're this, I'm never going to do it. If someone comes a bit more considered, I'll always answer them whether they've got 10 followers or 20,000 followers. Yeah. And I think that's what is not out there. And that's what I always wanted to create, particularly when clubs are going, look, what happened to me, that happened at our club, but it didn't happen on the telly and vice versa. And I just think, there's a piece there to be able to do it. There's this thing I've always had in my head that I did when I was coaching loads of referees for the academy, for the FA, called the ref doctor, where someone comes in with a problem. This happens to me. We talk about it called the ref doctor. I mean, it happens. There was a referee called Lee Probert who did the FA Cup final hold against Arsenal. Top class referee, mate of mine, works over in the UAE now, in Dubai for the UAE FA. And he comes down as a guest speaker because a lot of these Premier League lads give their time off free to come down on a Sunday afternoon and give the time to referees. And it was absolutely pissing down with rain, and we couldn't go outside to do a practical session. So we just thought, what are we going to do? We're in a place called Columpton in Devon. Shout out to Columpton, great club. And so I just pulled the chair out and said, right, every one of you in this room has got to get on that chair, face Lee, and tell him what's wrong at your game. You've got this, is it? Corner positions, is it? And people tell me off because, the caution technique and all those little nuances of football, what refereeing, that no one will ever really think of unless you're a referee. How we're doing yellow cards, how I talk to players, me whistle tone, You know, do I blow for corners, obvious corners? Do I not? You know, all these little things that people might never ever think of.
Mm.
You can sit down and talk, and every single one of them stood up and said, "Look, all from simple little things. What
Do you know
boots do I
what?
wear?"
Do you know what? That's really good, actually. We could have a feature on this pod called Ask Mark.
Ask
Why
Mark.
not?
Ask Mark.
Seriously, we could seriously. People, the refs struggling. I could collate them each week and give you the best ones, and you could give them the answer. I think
Yeah,
that's a really good
throw 'em at me,
feature.
Brian. Mate, one of the things I used to do on a previous podcast, and there's a lad called Nathan from the third team who's got a really good thing he does. It's a business, it's his job really, about mental health. He does loads on mental health. Fantastic guy. Autistic ref, so he has had his challenges, been on ITV over his autism. He's agreed to come on. And he did this with me. He started doing it with me. And he just say, right, what about this? And then I'd go back to them and say, okay, what about this? And we always had these discussions, a practical side of it, which could be called Ask Mart or the ref doctor, whatever. And one of them, I said to them, do you pay attention to what foot a player kicks his ball with? Do you pay? And they were like, oh, not really. And I said, well, you really need to pay attention to how a player's delivering a ball at every level of football, even down to coaching. Where I would go to an extent where the lads I would coach and girls, I would say, watch the goalkeeper warming up and what foot he kicks the ball with. Because guarantee, if that ball gets played back to him on his wrong foot, any attacker with their salt's going to close him down. Knowing he's got to take an extra touch. If it's on his good foot, he's just going to clear it. So, and pros do it, man. He was brilliant. It was brilliant. I wanted to take an extra touch to the goalkeeper. And he'd be on top of him. And so what that would do is a referee, if you're twist onto that and you can see it's going on to his wrong foot with these positions, you start running just in case something happens and he takes an extra touch or you might foul him and you're right on the spot. And that can go to free kicks, to corners, to all of it. If someone's taking a corner on the right of the goal and he's doing it with his left foot, you can almost guarantee that's going to go near post. Almost guarantee it's going to near post. And if the second ball's important. So there's those little things that people should never think of that. That's why we like to help those little things for new referees and.
So that's the first ref doctor bit of advice there for you this week. I'm going to do my best to get you a question next week. In fact, I'm going to ask our young ref Luke for a question that you can help him with, and we'll ask you that next week.
Have a look at it.
So coming on, sorry, have I cut you off again?
No. I just think it's good, and anything that helps anybody, you're always going to get the smart asses that go, VAR. What did you talk about with your frigging VAR, for God's sake? So what I mean, our VAR, what we've always been against is violence against referees. That's been the only VAR we've ever been against. And so sort that out, and we'll do everything else. So, yeah, mate, let's go with it. Let's go.
Right then. This is not a ref doctor question. This is me really. I'm putting you on the spot here. Does a decision, doesn't matter what decision yet, does a decision have more weight behind it, or should I say, should it have less weight behind it based on the significance of the occasion? So what I'm saying is a tackle that is in a grey area, should it be deemed less of a tackle if it's in a final than it being in a normal league fixture, let's say? That's
so you're about the Barnsley.
Don't lead on to it. Just answer me that first.
well, this is a bigger conversation. I think we could spend the whole pot on. This is equal to like people asking for consistency during the game.
Yeah.
And then saying to a ref, "Oh, come on, ref! It's only his first one."
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
1 minute, ref, it's a derby. It's a cup final. It's his first one. He's broke his leg.
He's just yelling first.
It's his first. He's not really good lad.
It is about Barnsley, and I had loads of my mates yesterday who are Wednesday fans who went down to Wembley to watch the game, and there was a massive argument both on. I've got like a personal lads chat and a coaches chat, and it was split down the middle. And for me, I said I thought the red card was a yellow. I thought it was reckless, not dangerous, and I thought that given the magnitude of what it was, that I think the referee, and you can correct me now, I'm happy to take that, should have maybe on that occasion given it. I think if he'd have looked at the monitors, I think he might have given a yellow, because even though it was high, I don't think well, he didn't connect with the ball or the player really. It was a trailing leg that connected, and I thought that it was a harsh decision. I thought it was harsh personally. So, but you're the expert. Well, you can both have your opinion. But
Well, I disagree with you.
It should have been yellow.
I disagree with you. I think if you see it as careless or reckless or excessive, if you've seen it as any of those three, then you penalise accordingly. And it doesn't matter what arena you're in.
Reckless is a yellow card, not a red.
Yeah, no, I said if you've seen it as careless, reckless, or excessive, whichever of those three you see it as, you penalise accordingly, regardless of the situation.
Which is right, and that's what he's saying. But listen, I do the other side of it because I've been both sides, haven't I?
Does the occasion? Answer me the first part. You're getting like a politician here. Does the occasion matter?
No.
Really?
No. I think sometimes. I remember going back to watching a playoff a few years ago with a client of mine who they're not clients anymore, but still good friends. Boreham Wood played Tranmere in the playoff final at Wembley. Massive achievement for Boreham Wood. Fan base about 400, but they've got a really good business setup behind it with an academy, one of the best educational academies in the country for 16 to 18-year-olds, and the chairman puts loads into the club. So I went there as his guest, and I think it was Neil, someone, the referee, can't remember second name, Football League ref now. He sent someone off after about 36 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, in the playoff to go up to the Football League.
Neil, was it a sending off?
Yeah, absolutely. But there was the body language told you everything. That he was no way he was going to do anything else other than that. It goes back to what Wayne just said. And I think sometimes you don't have time to think, is this a semi-final or a final? Or is this just a real? It doesn't happen that way. If anything,
the challenge for you then, was it a yellow or was it a red?
Defo red.
Really?
Red. Mate, honestly, what are you doing as a player? Here we are looking at that game. What a high-level game to have. What are you doing making a stupid, unnecessary tackle like that as a player? First of all, why are you putting yourself in a position to make the referee make a decision? What are you going to get out of it? And do you know what else happens a lot? And maybe you can look at this in more detail because you're very much a forensic guy. You think a lot of these things happen wide on the pitch, wide where there's nothing going on. You don't often see them right in the middle of the centre circle, do you? They're always wide with
I've never really thought about that, but that is really interesting because there's less danger from the wide areas.
Yeah, it's always done a wide, so stupid little the throwing going in, and then they might take us their throw and they'll have a go picking the ball up, and it's all nonsense. What was really interesting about that for referees listening was the referees' carding technique. I mentioned the aliens and I about what we think about refereeing.
Yeah.
Ref doctor. And again, people won't see the nuances of how these are experts. Trust me. They might all think they're crap because they let their teams down. But I knew by looking at him, he was going to bin him because he walked around the group of players and he stood wide by the touchline and just pointed. There you go. He's off the pitch straight away. Off the pitch. Tunnel's just there, bank on. Imagine if he hadn't been thought about it, he's got to walk through players, the other side, and then walk off. And it's that sort of technique, right. That sort of thought processes would never probably be noticed by anyone outside the refereeing game. So
it's I knew, isn't it?
Yeah, I knew straight away. He walked around the other side of the wall, then called him to him, and just said, up off the pitch. He had about 5 yards to go over the pitch.
Yeah, so opposed to doing it on middle of the pitch and causing another massive furore.
Yeah, everyone could run around.
So you're taking them to where you kind of want them to be. All right, then. So I reckon I'll lose that one then, 2-1. If I'd have been reffing, I'd have reffed the occasion and he'd have got a yellow. Because I'd have felt sorry for the kid. But listen, before that, right, and I've got a real issue with this. A real issue with it. That the challenge now, if any Barnsley fans are listening, they're going to go mad at me because I'd have to see it again. I only watched it a couple of times, but my initial reaction was: does kicking the underside of somebody's foot make them fall over? Does it? Because in my experience, I very rarely, when I used to play, got kicked on the underside of the foot, and if I did, it wouldn't have made me fall over. So there's loads of challenges that happen in a box where you make contact with players. They're still pulling shirts. They're still pushing. They're still pulling. They're still ragging them around the neck. They're still kicking. There's loads goes off in the box. If you watch, especially corners, you watch it. I don't know how they get away with half it that they do. Obviously, because there's just too much to see. I imagine he kicks I'm sure it was on the side of his foot, not his leg. But even if, to me, that's not going to bring him down in the same way as if he shoulders him, it's not going to bring him down. Same way as if they're pushing each other, it's not going to bring them down. So yes, you could probably say it should have been a penalty because he kicked him and he didn't get the ball.
Yeah, I agree
but
there.
For me, how many times do you see physical contact in the box and the players don't go down? You don't call for a penalty for it. You only call for a penalty when you go down. Now, I think he did fall down, but I think he fell down because he felt the kick and he thought, oh, I'm going to fall. So it's a little bit of, for me, it's a little bit like, I've seen one against, and Martin, I'm not sure you remember this, Liverpool had one against them last season, not season before, away at Brighton. And it was Andy Robertson who kicked underneath Danny Welbeck's foot. And Danny Welbeck did a ballerina dance to the floor. And it literally tapped the underside of his foot. And I played football, I'm thinking, if somebody kicks me under the foot, I'm not going to fall on the floor. That's the last thing I'm going to do. So it was, I felt we'd been done by Danny Welbeck, because if there'd have been any other physical contact, I'm not talking excessive, it wouldn't have gone down. And I always felt that were a soft penalty. So when I looked at that one, I'm thinking, he's kicked on the side of your foot. All right, maybe it can be classed as a foul. But at the same time, if let's say they'd been running through, he'd have got the ball first and he'd have kicked it, and then he'd have carried on, and because the ball was in front of him, he wouldn't have fallen down because he's seen a goal scoring opportunity and he'd have scored. There wasn't a goal scoring opportunity. He fell to the floor. And I don't know. For me, I'm not, there's certain contacts that free kicks, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's my opinion. Standing by it today.
What do you reckon, Wayne?
I reckon he's wrong.
Listen, if I'd have been refereeing for that game yesterday, Barnsley wouldn't have had a penalty, but they wouldn't have got a man sent off either, so they'd probably won 11v11.
A lot of them neglected that they were 10 men missed a sitter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
that's never ever important. That's never ever important.
And I seen your comment. I love following you on Twitter because your way is just, it's amazing. And sometimes I want to stick up for you. I thought, nah, he's got it. He's just got it. But yeah. Somebody said to me this morning, it was like playing FIFA on your computer and you press long pass instead of shoot. That's exactly what because I really want the Wednesday to win, because I had a lot of mates doing it, and I'm getting to that mature age of my life now where I like my mates to go and have a good day opposed to just ridiculing them all the time and giving them abuse. So I was like, I've been to Wembley with Liverpool. I've been beat at finals with Liverpool, Chelsea. I think it was 2012 when Dalglish was managing, and I had to come home. I went on my own as well, and it was just like, I know what it feels like, so I want them to go and have a good day. So I really want the Wednesday to win. But when I seen him go through, I'm like, they're going to lose this now. And the shot, I'm like, I can't even explain it. And you made a really good point, Martin, because you said, what about the chance that you missed in extra time? And is that the ref's fault as well? You failing to see that the player's made a mistake. But you're not looking at the player. You're looking at the ref for sending him off or not giving you a penalty. Yet when he missed that opportunity, it was well into extra time. And it probably one on half because the keeper was nowhere near.
No.
So anyway, thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm with you on it, and I think one of the important things to remember about simulation diving and everything else, you can have contact and still dive.
Yeah.
People just think, it's got its contact, we haven't dived. They haven't dived. There's probably more simulation happens when there is contact than no contact at all. You touched on interesting points. Drogba was a genius at it. Drogba. I even remember him playing against Liverpool for Marseille. Chelsea signed him for Marseille, didn't he? Playing in Europe, and he destroys Liverpool with both legs at Marseille. I was thinking, oh my God, what a player he is. If he had a chance of scoring, no one could take him to ground. Nobody. If he knew he might have just a heavy touch and it's got a bit further, he'd go down in those areas where the Lampard could take the free kicks and all these other people take the free kicks. That's part of this as well. That's part of this. And the coach that way, Andy. And I think it's unfortunate that everyone says, if he stays up, he's not going to get it. I think the game's going that way to recognise that we will still get it if you do stand up. And I don't know how quickly we're going to get there, but the way Howard Webb is changing the mentality of how these referees think, I wouldn't be surprised if next season we're seeing penalties for people who normally would go down to get a penalty, but they've stayed up and still got the penalty.
Really?
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that happening because, you shouldn't have to go down to get a penalty. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Foul's a foul, innit? And I think what going on corners and all that grabbing and holding and all the other stuff that goes on. There's a good point when you said, look, so much of it goes on. Who'd you pick on? But if you remember Howard Webb, that bit him in the ass. I think it was Croatia, Belgium, or someone, where he gave like an 89th minute penalty for a corner. It happened all the game, and they hadn't seemed to do anything. And then he did it in a World Cup of Euros. I think it might have been the World Cup. It might have been 2010 when he got the final. I'm not sure. And he got battered for it, death threats for it, because it was, I think it was 89th minute.
I can't remember the death threats that he got. I can remember reading about that, but I can't remember.
But it was Croatia. I'm sure it was Croatia.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. But I can remember in the Russia World Cup when they clamped down on it and they was giving penalties away left, right, and centre for contact in the box. And because then all the defenders were shit scared of doing it, you were seeing loads of headed goals. And I love headed goals, one of my favourites. And you see that, just keep this going. Just keep it going. But yeah, no, I think I know you've got to get off shortly, Martin. So I think this is probably a good time for us to wrap it up. Before we do, I want to do as usual plugs for us again in terms of getting at us on the social media. We're at everywhere now, and it's all the same name. It's at the Ref Pod. So it doesn't matter if you're on. I haven't really used TikTok very much. I've got no idea what I'm doing with it. But I'm on there. Not that I posted. Instagram, that's picking up. Twitter's picking up pace. Facebook slightly getting there a little bit. So go follow us on there. We are on 99% now of your podcast platforms, such as Spotify and do you know the song I can remember?
Are we on Deezer?
Might be on Deezer, I'm not sure. But the only one we're not on at the minute is Apple, and that's not because we're not allowed. It's just I'm waiting for Apple to green light it. Can take up to 3 weeks. So if you're an Apple, I know we've had a few people say I listen on Apple. I can't get it on there. Apparently, you can get us on Alexa now as well.
Oh really? Just don't say that on me. One. Well, I'll tell you what I have seen. I've only ever done one podcast that was part of what I was doing before, and that was good. This is definitely having more traction than anything else I've done.
Yeah,
it's been unbelievable. The engagements we've had and messages I've had. People haven't spoken to you for ages. Said I was listening to the podcast and that's brilliant. I can't wait for the next one. There's a bloke called the Running Ref from America. Don't even seen him.
I saw him comment a few times on your social.
He sent me a message from Mexico. Someone on holiday in Mexico said, "I'd love to come on. Can I come on your podcast?" And so when you got people asking you to come on your podcast,
fantastic.
After episode 1, tells me that this blend of what we've got is.
Yeah, I think it's going to go far. And I had like one of my best pals has messaged me and he gave me some really, really positive feedback. And he's been with me kind of on the journey when I was on radio, when I did another podcast that I did, and he said this is after one episode as well. He said this is the best you've ever done. He said the content and how you put it together, even though it was the first one, and we didn't really have that much to talk about. We were just kind of filling people up with how good we were. Yeah. Whereas this one today, I feel like we've absolutely nailed this one today in terms of what we're talking about. There's some really in-depth information that
no agenda either. It's all just come from one conversation.
No agenda. No agenda whatsoever. I do think it's a good start. And as well as the podcast, we had nearly as many people, believe it or not, watch it on YouTube as listen to it, which is really, really good. So thank you for tuning in and looking at us three ugly.
Listen, I wouldn't mind just saying, in case we don't get one in before the weekend, isn't it the FA Cup final this weekend?
Yeah, it is, yeah. The Manchester derby. What, you want in predictions?
Well, I've never wanted Man United to win any game at all, ever. Maybe against Everton, but I sort of want City to do the treble because I know that's going to really piss off United fans because they do the treble. But I sort of don't want them to do the treble. But if they don't do the treble, Man United wins the FA Cup. So from a Liverpool fan's point of view, I'm just like, but being someone who went down to that, the first ever FA Cup final, Liverpool-Everton, went down there with Everton fans because a relative of mine was playing for Everton at the time, Dave Watson.
Really?
And yeah. And I was in the Everton end. And the experience of that day where the city comes together is unbelievable. And fair play to Manchester. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, Mother Scout.
Do you think though that Manchester's as united as Liverpool as a city?
Well, I'm not sure. And I think it's changing with Liverpool Everton. It's a lot more
Yeah.
A lot more aggressive,
Not
and a
as
lot
friendly,
more
is it?
asshole than it used to be. Yeah, I don't know what's causing that, but it's never ever, this lovely painted picture of Liverpool Everton derby days. There's no trouble. Go to town after the game of Liverpool derby, and you might have a different opinion. But I think football's like that everywhere. But I would like to think that as a city, Manchester has come together because some terrible things have happened to that city.
Yeah.
Like back to the Munich air disaster, which
You know what?
terrible, terrible, and to the Manchester
going to
Arena.
come together. They're not going to come together.
I'd like to think they would.
They're not,
I'd like to think
Martin.
they would.
Come out of Disney World, Martin. Come back here. That ain't happening. It ain't
Do you reckon?
happening. No. Wayne, what's
Well,
your prediction?
3-1 City.
Really?
Yep.
Can I tell you where I stand as a Liverpool fan?
Yeah.
I want City to absolutely smash Man United. I don't want Man United to win a thing, not even a baked bean. But then I want Manchester City to go to Istanbul, and I want Inter Milan to absolutely smash Man City. And that outcome will be the only way that I will enjoy a footballless summer. Let me tell you.
You do realise that the people in Manchester that will never listen to this podcast again.
Well, I'm sorry, but look, at least I'm honest with you, right? I don't care what City win. It's a club built on quicksand, as the famous words of Mr. Simon Jordan, and I truly believe it. And of course, I'm jealous of the money they're spending. At the same time, I wouldn't want us to work that way. Although I would like us to spend a bit more money, but I don't want Manchester City to win a baked bean, and Manchester United to win a baked bean. Nothing, zip, nada. I'd like to get relegated, to be honest. I'd like to see them tumble down to step 7 and have to have points deductions when Bruno Fernandes cheeks a ref or pushes a linesman. That's where I want to see Manchester United.
Well, listen, I've got to make sure Man United fans, Everton fans, City fans, trust me. There's a lad who goes down my local where I drink in Weston-super-Mare. Been drinking there for 14 years on a Friday. Big group of us. But one lad there who goes to every City game home and away abroad a lot. It's older lad, brilliant fan. I've got another really good friend called Well Done Dave. Bit of a story to him. Who's a massive City fan. We'll talk about what Well Done Dave one day. So, and I've got another lad who, when Liverpool won the league, he was always giving us loads about never win the league. And when we did, he come over and sat at me at the bar and he bought me 2 pints. He goes, I want to buy 2 pints. I want to buy something because when we won the league twice, when I seen you, you were like fair play. You were the best. You were the best team, even though Scousers don't like Man United. And I think what's spoiled, like every club's got them. Every club we've seen it on Twitter. There's some really good people in football, no matter who they support. Mm-hmm. And I know we have this like City, we get nicer or whatever, but I know far more nicer Man United and Man City fans than the two horrible ones. And that's how I just want them to enjoy that day as a City.
Oh yeah, no, I don't get me wrong. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I don't dislike them at all. I dislike the club. Like Man United ruined my youth. I was.
My youth.
They did. I was when they won the first league. I'd have been 11, and before that it had been Liverpool. And obviously I knew they got to experience that very much because I was too young to remember it. Although my first ever game going to Liverpool was in 1990. Last home game of the season against Derby County. They won 1-0. Gary Gillespie scored the only goal. And they lifted the trophy that day, and Bruce Grobler was wearing a Mexican hat on the pitch. And that was my first ever visit to Anfield. So as you can imagine, I was totally hooked, and then it were all downhill from there. And Man United won the lot.
Didn't Gary Gillespie get injured in the warm-up of that Merseyside FA Cup final? I'm sure he got injured in the warm-up the day before. He never played. Gary Gillespie. I'm sure it was. I liked him as a player. Funny little story before we go. Keith Gillespie, the Man United player, he does a lot of stuff around here in Weston-super-Mare. A lot of charity stuff, and my mate said, "Scout, so I've got him coming here. Keith Gillespie coming to the Windsor Castle in Weston-super-Mare to have a pint." All right, I'll come down and have a chat about football. Ron Atkinson was another one. I've actually got Ron Atkinson's phone number. And I did a few gigs with Ron Atkinson, who actually is as bright as a button to this day. And anyway, I was having a pint with.
Can we get him on?
I mean, do you know what? I might ask him. I know I've done loads of stuff with him. And actually, when I was at a do with him in Crete, a 10-day do in Crete, and he got me to one side. I was running all the referees. Got to one side. He said, "Hey, Scouts," he said, "You want to win it? You want to win the league this year?" And that was in about October, November. You're definitely going to win the league, and we did. It's good lads. A lot of people don't know. You do realise Ron Atkinson was born in Liverpool, don't you?
No.
Old Swan. Yeah, he's a Scouser by birth.
Really?
Yes. I'll Google it. Old Swan is born in. Top lad. So when you go back to this Keith Gillespie, I'm in a pub with him, and I don't even know. My mate's Maz had to stop me. I kept calling him Gary. Gary, Gary. And I'm fucking in an hour. In an hour, I've been calling Keith Gillespie, Gary Gillespie. And he was really nice. He never had the he was too nice to go, my name's Keith. Gary Gillespie.
Ain't Keith Gillespie the guy that played for Newcastle?
Yeah, and Man United, big Man United lads,
Yeah.
and Northern Ireland lads,
Yeah.
cracker lads, really, really cracker lads, and so I've met far more nicer people associated with Man United than bad people.
No, yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't hate it. I said earlier, didn't I, that I want the Wednesday to win because all my mates are going down. I want to see him do well. So I've got nothing against them personally. This is pure football rivalry me. I'm one of these in a ground. I'll be so wrapped up in it. I'll be either crying tears of joy or I'll be absolutely devastated. But on way out,
soft lads. I'm trying to throw you a rope to get you out of that hole you just friggin' dug for yourself. Take the rope.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But afterwards, I'll have a pint with you and have a laugh about it. But no, it's nothing personal. I detest the club. Man United ruined my childhood, mate. That's what I'm telling. My youth was ruined by Alex Ferguson and the treble winners and all that rubbish.
One of the things I'm going to do is why I wanted to mention this is I put a thing out on Twitter, a Ref Support Twitter and Facebook group, saying, did you referee or do the line in any part of the FA Cup this year? And loads of people have come. So what I want to do is I want to do a little interview with them about their journey of the FA Cup. Because the FA Cup, when it was on Saturday, Man United against Man City, two of the biggest clubs in the world, lots of grassroots referees will be watching that. You're the fans all on telly. Mm-hmm. They did one of the earlier rounds as a lino or as a ref, in the pre-qualifying rounds or those early rounds.
Yeah, that's a really
and never ever gets recognised. Never gets recognised. So hopefully I'll be able to.
Have you got some contacts, or should we put out there how they can get hold of us? Obviously by the social media channels that.
I'll get hold of them. That's why I did it. Because I didn't realise we'd do this podcast so quick. Well, I was going to do it myself, but I thought, well, let's see if we can get hold of some. I can't think we'll do it before the weekend, but even if we could do it after the FA Cup, or you just had a nice FA Cup, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They're all out there, and they've all said the game they've done, and there's some really, really low level. Because, the FA Cup means everything. There's these lower, they could change the whole season.
We haven't. You're right. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I'm really into it now. And I'm going to have to bring this up, and I might bring it up after the FA Cup final, just about kickoff times for FA. In fact, I'm going to leave it on that one because it's a discussion that I did on a former podcast, and it was like my 5 tips or something to save the FA Cup, and I'd like to put them to you and see what you think, because I think as a competition, it needs a bit of a kick-up arse, and I had some really good ideas on how I thought that could be achieved, but that could take me half an hour to go through, so we'll leave that one for another day.
So I'd like to very quickly just add something. If we can all just give a quick round of applause for Andre Mariner, who's announced his retirement today. So well done, Ref.
Top man. I've got another story about Andre Mariner. He was. I spent 10 days with him in Trinidad and Tobago on a PFA do. I remember I said that player. I couldn't remember his bleeding name. I was in his studio with Jim. Mickey. Oh, fuck. His name.
He was Mickey Gray.
Mickey Gray.
Left back.
It was him. He was in the studio with us. And when I walked in, I said, "All right, Mickey," and started talking. And I haven't gone back and listened to that. I must go back and find that. I'm in the studio with him, and as I'm talking to Jim White in adverts, telling the story about me, Mickey and oh my God, me and my bleeding memory, Chelsea player. Oh my God, I can see his face and everything. Anyway, they were drunk, and they had the games weren't happening until the weekend at the Dwight York Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago. And they all, they're all mega competitive. So let's all have a sprint. Who's the fastest? And 2 of them pulled the hamstrings. But what I remember about Mickey was that he was just a really good dancer. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I was going somewhere, but I remembered it was Mickey.
Do you know? And I'll try to wrap it on this one. I had a massive run-in with Mickey Gray on Talk Sport on radio, because we literally, it was the year we won the Champions League in 2019. And we got knocked out of the early rounds of the FA Cup by, I can't remember, it was shocking. I went to a game, we got knocked out, it was shocking. And he were really going to town on Liverpool. I mean, on Jurgen Klopp, really going to town on him. And I'd listened. I thought, you know, I've had enough. I'm ringing up. Sick of this. I've had enough. So I got it on phone, and I can remember speak to the producer, and he said, "What do you want to tell Mickey?" I said, "I want to tell him how he's talking absolute shite, basically." And I've got the interview somewhere. It's brilliant, and I don't care if he's listening. I put him in his box because he was saying Liverpool have got absolutely no chance of winning the Champions League or the Premier League, and I said to him, "Why? Can you tell me, given what we're doing, the football we're playing, why we haven't got a chance of winning the Champions League? Because we have, and we can, and we did. And as soon as we did it, I didn't troll him, but I were all over Twitter, and he would not respond to me. And I kept, every time he said something, I just kept saying, well, Liverpool going to win the Champions League or what? And he never got back to me. And do you know, I were that good. My interview were that good. They used to do the Wix's caller of the day, and I got an £100 voucher. They ran me. Jim White announced it on air, and he said, "We're giving the call of the day today to Wayne for his conversation with Mickey Gray," and they give me £100 because I tied Mickey Gray in knots.
And then the biggest question is, what did you spend it on?
Indeed.
I probably Mrs. probably spent that, mate. I've got no idea. £100 at Wix could have been paint. It could have been out, mate. It would have not worthwhile.
MDF skating.
But no, that is the truth. I'll try and find that interview and I'll share it because I were brilliant. I were on fire.
Brilliant.
So,
listen.
But anyway, that's going to wrap it off for today. Remember to follow us at the Ref Pod on all the social media. It's out there on Spotify. It's on Alexa. It's on TuneIn. We're trying to get it up on Apple. That should be done soon. And it is on YouTube as well, which we had loads of people watch it last week. Spread it, share it, subscribe. Do what you need to do to stay in touch, and we might have another one this week. We're waiting on a guest and trying to get something sorted out. We've got more. We haven't. Martin has. Martin's got loads of guests lined up. I'm not quite sure we're going to fit him in all before Christmas, but we'll have a good trying to do it. And it's exciting. And there's some really. I mean, some people I'm going to be a little bit starstruck about speaking to, and I can't wait for it. Lads, you enjoyed it?
Brilliant.
As ever, it's good to just do these little things, no agenda, just talk about what we're going and then just deliver it. But yeah, just thanks for giving your time on it, boys. I know you do a lot on this, and it's just really, I think it's good. It's just going to be good for people to have a little bit of something different in the refereeing world, and that we're not just always going to just blow smoke up referees' asses and say you're wonderful, but equally we're never going to abuse them. So it's just like. Let's just be real and just.
And now we've crowned you the ref doctor. If you have anything that you want to ask the ref doctor for next week,
can I ask a proper thing? The ref doctor.
No, we'll try and get that. We can do that. That's no problem. That's easy. Yeah. But if you've got anything you want to ask, any problems, provided it's not serious, Martin's got a full cup.
No, I'm not very experienced with hemorrhoids. Sounds like a Dutch centre forward, doesn't he?
So yeah, get at us, subscribe, like, share, and come at us. And Martin loves being abused on Twitter, and I find it highly amusing. So keep it coming. And nobody's took us up on the challenge yet. If you've got something to say, you disagree with us, come on the pod. Balls for the pod.
Definitely. Well, listen, thanks again, boys, and let's tune in next week.
Yeah. See you later, guys. Bye.
Take care.